after a very important woman in our community's history, a prominent municipal politician. It is appropriate, therefore, that our inaugural speaker, Her Worship Mayor Hazel McCallion, is a nationally recognised leader, very much in the tradition of Mary Phipps. The Mississauga Heritage Foundation is one of Canada's most respected charities dedicated to civic heritage. We are responsible for educational programs, major events, promoting cultural diversity and local history, neighbourhood regeneration efforts, and conscientious advocacy on behalf of heritage preservation. We have also released some groundbreaking publications, including the recent book, Mississauga, the First 10,000 Years. And you are welcome to purchase an autographed copy during the reception this evening. They're all outside. At the core of our mission is civic renewal and stewardship, fostering a sense of community, a sense of time, and a sense of place. The annual Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture will therefore feature thought-provoking speakers who confront discussion and reflection on civic issues. Everything the MHF does depends on the generosity and collaboration of local groups and citizens. The Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture is no exception. We warmly acknowledge our major sponsor, the Zonta Club of Mississauga, a representative of which will be joining us on stage later this evening for a special presentation. It should be noted that both Mary Phipps and Hazel McCallion were active members of the Zonta Club. We also acknowledge generous donors, DEPCO International and MHF member Emmy Nielsen for helping make this program possible. I have two letters of greeting from Mayor McCallion. The first is from Lieutenant Governor James K. Bartleman. It is my pleasure to convey greetings to everyone attending the first annual Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture hosted by Mississauga Heritage Foundation. It is fitting that Mayor Hazel McCallion will be the inaugural speaker. More than any other individual, Her Worship has shaped and guided the development of Mississauga. Her dedication to the city is legendary, and her vision for its future is firmly grounded in an appreciation of its past. I saw this recently when I joined Mayor McCallion for the Remembrance Day ceremony in Streetside. The mutual respect between Her Worship and the veterans was a clear indication of her high regard for the contributions of all citizens who have helped to build the civil society we enjoy today. I can think of no better speaker to launch this annual lecture, which is a celebration of civic heritage and spirit. I wish you all an enjoyable evening. The second letter is from Ontario's new Premier, the Honourable Dalton McGuinty. On behalf of the Government of Ontario, I am pleased to extend warm greetings to everyone attending the first annual Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture presented by the Mississauga Heritage Foundation. The first annual Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture provides an ideal opportunity for the people of Mississauga to celebrate their community through this year's distinguished speaker, Her Worship Hazel McCallion, Mayor of Mississauga. May her speech inspire all those who are working to preserve their communities and our province for generations to come. I offer special congratulations to those members of the Mississauga Heritage Foundation who helped to organise this event. Your efforts are in the great tradition of Mary Phipps, and you should be proud of your accomplishments. Please accept my best wishes for an enlightening and memorable evening. And we'd like to thank the Lieutenant Governor and the Premier for their best wishes. Is Carolyn Parrish in the audience? No. As this is the very first Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture, we would like briefly to review the life and times of Mary Phipps. I invite Meera Modi, to Mississauga Heritage Foundation board member and chair of its marketing committee, to help set the context of this lecture for us.
Thank you, Mayor. It's an honor to be standing here and talk about such a remarkable lady, Mary Phipps. Mary McNulty Phipps, the founding president of the foundation, was the outspoken leader of the Township of Toronto in 1955 and again from 1957 to 1959. She led an energetic reform movement dedicated to healthier neighborhoods and an overhaul of the township's antiquated administration. Born in Ottawa in 1896, she became that city's first woman lawyer. She was later the international purchasing director for the Tea Eaton Company, spending a great deal of time in London, Paris, and New York. She and her husband Albert moved to Toronto Township in 1939, building for themselves a small but charming Cape Cod-style house just off Center Road, now known as John Tyler Street, south of the QEW, where that house still stands. In the early 1950s, Mary Phipps, as a neighborhood activist, was able to get the province to investigate what she regarded as the township's financial mismanagement and its lax approach to dealing with subdivisions and developers. Taxes were skyrocketing because development was scattered. Development charges were non-existent, causing the municipalities' infrastructure to be strained beyond the limit. She was often sharply critical of her predecessor on the council. She complained that they spend their time arguing about $2 goods for firemen while piling up $2 million in debenture behind them, quote unquote. Her first elected office was deputy mayor. Indeed, 2003 marks exactly 50 years since Mary Phipps entered public life. Mrs. Phipps, who died in 1972, was a champion of the heritage movement. She was co-founder of Toronto Township Historical Foundation and predecessor to Mississauga Heritage Foundation. The foundation's first task was to save the brand new museum and ensure that it would become a community museum. As Rio, Mrs. Phipps sought to limit residential development, but to encourage industrial development in order to create balance in tax assessment. As Rio of Toronto Township, and as Warden of Peel County, and as a president of the Ontario Association of Urban and Rural Municipalities, she was often fearless in confronting the builders. It's now our pleasure to present a 12-minute vintage film that Mrs. Phipps spearheaded in 1957 to showcase the township. This film was presented by Rio Phipps to, among others, Her Majesty the Queen.
Once upon a time, there dwelt on the shoreline of Lake Ontario, in the province of the same name, 3 sister municipalities. 2 had won fame sufficient to have their names placed on the map in bold type. As you may well imagine, the biggest, the wealthiest, and most impressive of these sister municipalities was Toronto, said to be the fastest growing metropolis in North America. 40 miles westward was situated the second sister of the trio, a very ambitious industrial port city named Hamilton. Each of these great sister cities was so preoccupied in attracting new admirers from the field of industry that they all but forgot the third sister between them. The township of Toronto, or Cinderella for the purpose of our story, was a picturesque rural area, peopled mainly by orchardists and farmers. And there was a sprinkling of commuters who worked in the big sister community, but preferred the quiet home life of the township. They seldom missed a train. This Cinderella township dreams of days gone by, when Mississauga Indians roamed the region and took some comfort from the flattering compliments paid to her in setting, described in the White Oaks books by Hazel McCallion. Then came the post-war era of Canada's booming expansion, and as the older sisters became fatter and bulged their waistlines fair to bursting, industry turned admiring eyes to Cinderella. They liked the potential of the township's many miles of Lake Ontario shoreline, a vast reception area for raw materials by economical water transport, and the completion of the St. Lawrence Seaway also offered interesting possibilities. Industry noted that the main lines of two national railway systems across the township considered the network of up-to-date highways leading to Canada's largest centers of population, and paid heed to Malton Airport, one of North America's largest and busiest air terminals. Here were municipal services to gladden the eye of prospective industry, services established by foresighted citizens and their elected leaders. Here was an abundance of water for industry, hydroelectric power drawn from nearby Niagara's modest rate, efficient police and firefighting systems, and many other basic services. But in their final judgment of Cinderella, industry studied her feet. For the greatest yardstick in measuring the wealth, well-being, and potential of a community is its citizens, old and young. Careful township planning had made provision for many fine residential communities. The township is primarily a municipality of homeowners, with more than 90% of its citizens owning their own property. During the past decade, the population has increased more than 100%. In the establishment of new residential communities, care was taken to preserve the natural beauty of the area. There is a time for work and a time for pleasure. The township boasts excellent recreational facilities, including including many private golf clubs and a municipal course that is one of the finest championship courses in Canada. This is one of the many modern and easily accessible shopping areas. And there are places to work for all denominations. The Township of Toronto is Ontario's largest, and many sites have been carefully selected for future industrial expansion. Here is a unique lakeside site, all ready for industrial occupancy. These shaded areas have been set aside. 10,000 acres of zoned industrial land and all. And so the Township of Toronto, a long-forgotten Cinderella, was discovered by industry. In 1955, 740 acres of industrial and commercial land were sold in the township. At the third, pageantry, color, and music attended the lakeside opening of one of Canada's largest producers of cement. Dominion, provincial, and municipal dignitaries joined industrial leaders from two hemispheres at the dedication of a plant geared to produce 16 million bags of cement per year. One of the world's leading aircraft plants has added impact to the township's economy. These speedy jet aircraft have been built by the hundreds for Canada's defenses and air bases abroad. And Malton is proud. Every day, 60,000 barrels of petroleum products are processed at this model refinery. A host of other progressive industries producing electronic equipment, food products, chemicals, building materials, and a vast quantity of other commodities, all dedicated to serving the needs of Canadians from coast to coast, now call the Cinderella Township their home. The township of Toronto is situated strategically in the heartland of Ontario, Canada's largest and most prosperous province. Within a 100-mile radius is a population in excess of 3 million people. With this rich and concentrated market on its doorstep, the township of Toronto faces a bright and promising future as a partner in the growth and prosperity of the nation. And so the township of Toronto remains today, as it always has been, a setting of natural scenic beauty with character and quiet charm. And in the future, there are many glowing chapters still to be written into the storybook epic of Canada's Cinderella municipality, the township of Toronto.
At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the presence in the audience of Ms. Carolyn Parrish, who is the Member of Parliament from Mississauga Central. Carolyn, thank you for being with us. Would you mind standing to be recognized? Now, what we've all been waiting for. I'd like to ask Tom Urbaniak to come and introduce tonight's speaker. Tom is our Vice President, and he has been very largely responsible for putting together this evening, and I'd like to say thank you, Tom, at this time for that. Would you come back?
Thank you very much, Marion. Well, you're not waiting for me, so I will proceed with the introduction of our guest lecturer. We built this Mary Phipps lecture as a milestone event, and I'd like to take a moment to discuss what we meant. You see, our guest lecturer has been in public life for 35 years. She'll be sharing critical decisions, her hopes, perhaps even fears. Hazel McCallion has been Mississauga's mayor for a quarter century, almost to the day. She has been energetic and dynamic, running things in a most distinctive way. As the Dean of Big City Mayors, she is recognized far and wide. Other municipal politicians look to her. They rally to her side. The years preceding her mayoralty are likewise of great interest. As the Gaspé-born Hazel Journeau was often put to the test. Be it in the fishery, in school, in women's hockey as a pro, the signs were there. This person would refuse to lay low. She ran a national organization made up of Anglican youth, delving into charitable projects, the meaning of life, the search for truth. With Canadian Kellogg, she sharpened her knack in business and trade. She took many of the decisions and watched closely as others were made. In 1951, she settled near Streetsville, having found her partner in life. Hazel and Sam, what a team they were, this husband and wife. Becoming involved in the community, they saw the need for reform. So Hazel and her citizens' movement took Streetsville by storm. After the planning board, it was on to the post of deputy reeve. Winning the mayor's election then proved easy to achieve. But much harder was the fight to save Streetsville as a town. The effort was lost. The province had refused to back down. Thus, in 1974, as councillor for Streetsville, Hazel came to City Hall. Observers of local politics soon saw the writing on the wall. For by 1978, another push for change seemed to be in the air. When nominations opened for mayor, our speaker was there. She won, of course, and quickly had to assume a poised and decisive path, especially after that explosive, chemical-filled train hopped off the track. Beyond that, the mayor has presided over an ever-growing population, to the point that Mississauga is one of the largest cities in the nation. There was infrastructure to build, as well as amenities and public places. Important decisions about land use, neighborhoods, and civic spaces. But as Mississauga matures, we know it faces some big decisions as it grapples with how to make the most appropriate transitions. To cultivate our heritage, diversity, nature, culture, and art, we have hard work to do, a challenging future to chart. In this social undertaking, leaders and citizens have an integral role to ensure that our Mississauga will always be a city with a soul. It is thus with great hope, anticipation, as well as pleasure, that the heritage movement awaits our guest, a civic treasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's really an honor to be asked to be the first lecturer. And I want to say something about Tom, because I'm so proud of him. He was the chairman of my Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. A committee I started when I became mayor of Mississauga, because I felt that youth had a role to play in the future of this great city. And they have played a role. Tom is just an outstanding. Someday he will be Prime Minister of Canada. And Tom, I'm so proud of you. Isn't it great to see a young person play such a major role in our city? And the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee has produced some pretty good people. But tonight I'm honored to be the inaugural speaker at this first annual Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture. Tonight's event is very special to me because it honors someone that I admired from both a personal and professional standpoint. Mary Phipps was a distinguished civic leader in our community. She was also a pioneer, a role model for women in politics. Now there's another person that I consider a very role model, and that is Charlotte Lytton, the mayor of Ottawa, that I knew very well. When I was president of the Anglican Young People's Association of Canada, I had the pleasure to meet her because she was one of the women that entered a field that no other woman would try to enter, the Synod of the Anglican Church of Canada. That's for men only. She broke the barrier and became a member of the Synod. Mary Phipps entered politics as deputy reeve of Toronto Township in 1954, and 1955 became reeve. She was re-elected a few times, and in 1961 became Peel County's first female warden. You know, to attain that, ladies and gentlemen, You gotta be good, I gotta tell you, especially for a woman. You could say she helped open the doors of political office for many women, including myself. Looking at Mississauga's political landscape now, I'm sure Mary would be proud to see so many prominent women in politics today, represented at various levels of government. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, there are more women in local politics than there are in provincial legislatures and House of Commons. Long overdue, because I really believe that provincial politics and federal politics would be better off today if more women were there. Going hand in hand with her political life, Mary was always a staunch advocate for heritage and historical preservation. In fact, she was a founding member of the Toronto Township Historical Society, which later became the Mississauga Heritage Foundation. And so here we are tonight. Tonight's event is organized by the Mississauga Heritage Foundation, an organization that I believe in and actively support. You know that. And they have asked me to be the inaugural speaker for this memorial lecture, named in honor of an individual that I've always admired. Last week we held our municipal elections, and I feel honored that you have once again asked me to be your mayor of our wonderful city. I feel extremely grateful and fortunate to be able to do what I've been chosen to do. As you all know, Mississauga is a distinct major Canadian city. In fact, we are Canada's 6th largest city. We have the amenities of big cities such as world-class shopping, dining, live theater, professional sports, music concerts, and major special events. However, despite all of our big city features, we have not lost that community spirit that makes Mississauga a wonderful place to call home. We still have those communities: Erindale, Lorne Park, Streetsville, Port Credit, Cooksville. Isn't it wonderful? We are a city of communities. And that is so important, by the way, because each and every person who is a member of those respective communities are so proud. In fact, when you ask them where they live in Mississauga, they live in a community. When they go abroad, of course, they say, I live in Mississauga. However, despite all of our big city features, we have not lost that community spirit that makes Mississauga a wonderful place to call home. The city is now home to 680,000 people. And no matter how you look at it, this is a tremendous number of people. When I think that I took over as mayor in 1978, I believe our population was 290,000. In fact, in 79, I evacuated 230. I can't help but marvel at how far we've come as both a city and a community. Think of the people that we've brought into this community. No other community has grown to the size that we've grown. In 204, Mississauga will be celebrating our 30th anniversary as a city. Just a young city, only 30 years old. I think the mayor's 82. Now 30 years may seem like a long time, but I can assure you it goes fast, extremely fast, I can assure you. In fact, my career in politics precedes the city of Mississauga by several years. But let me go back even further than that, because the story of myself as a political person. Contrary to popular belief, my story doesn't even begin in Mississauga. As you know, I was born in Port Daniel on the Gaspé Coast, a village located in the Bay of Shore and part of the Gaspé Peninsula. And I'm appalled as how many Canadians don't know where the Gaspé Coast is. That's where René Lévesque was born, 20 miles from my hometown. I don't want to take any claim for him. Port Angle was a very small town. I was the daughter of a family of 5. My dad was a fish processor, and I can assure you that I was a depression kid. I was poor. I wore secondhand clothes, but I can assure you I never went to bed hungry at night because we lived on a farm. We produced all our products. But I'll tell you, we were poor. But that's fine. That's a great beginning for anybody, to be poor, because you appreciate what you're able to attain in life. And so I never have looked back and say I'm sorry for the conditions under which I lived. I had a loving family. I was the youngest of 5, spoiled greatly by my older sisters and brothers. But here I am as the mayor of Mississauga. Oh, I'm not spoiled. Well, the Gaspé Coast is a beautiful area of Canada. Natural beauty, no question about it. But no opportunity for any young person to stay there for a future, unless you either wanted to fish, and by the way, I love fishing, but not that type of fishing, or farming. Otherwise, you had to leave. So therefore, life on the Gaspé Coast was not something you would stay. The winters in Gaspé was very severe. I remember one time I climbed out the bedroom windows to go to school. Think about it. Have you ever climbed out of the bedroom window in a 2-story house to go to school? Nobody has. I did it. What an experience. So the experience on the Gaspé Coast was a great training for me, I can assure you. It meant that you could overcome anything. You know, when I talked about people that say, my daughter's son has to walk a few distance to go to school. I walked 2 miles every day to go to school. Back at lunchtime, because there was no lunch at the school. And again, and in the winter, when the storms were really great, and I'll tell you, you folks don't know what winter is all about. I remember the time when my dad harnessed up the horses in a sleigh, put us in, covered us over with big buffaloes to drive us to school. Folks, what an experience. You know what? I wouldn't regret it in the world, because it's taught me something that I'm sure many young people today will never experience. They don't know what it is to be living under those conditions. But you know what? It was a wonderful experience. Okay, so anyway, at grade 9, I left the Gaspé Coast and went to school with my sister, who was a school teacher in St. John's, Quebec. And then for my last year of high school education, I went to Quebec City. Now, I want you to know that in Quebec, you only take 11 years to accomplish what it takes 12 years in the province of Ontario. We had a Protestant education system in the province of Quebec. It was second to none in Canada. So I always tease my husband that it took 11 to 12 years to accomplish what we did in Quebec in 11. However, so when I first ventured in the corporate world, I graduated from high school, never had the opportunity to go to university, I got to tell you, because my dad couldn't afford it. So I took my business course in Montreal at Notre Dame Secretarial School, graduated from it, and then started to work in Montreal. And worked for a company that was given the award to build the first synthetic rubber plant in the world in Sarnia, Ontario. And so I was asked to come to Toronto, set up the office, to do the necessary work to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant. Well, I got to tell you, when I entered the private sector, it's the old boys' world, no question about it. I remember my boss said to me, Hazel, you should join the Office Manager Association of Toronto, because you are the office manager of our company. No women allowed. I hired many members of our company because we had a nucleus of about 20 people. And to build the world's first synthetic rubber plant, it needed 100 people. So I had to hire a lot of people. So my boss said to me, a Texan, by the way, engineer, as well as a chartered accountant, said, Mayor Hazel, I think you should join the Personnel Association of Toronto to get to know the opportunities that you can hire personnel. No women allowed. So we formed the Women's Personnel Association of Toronto. So you see, entering the private sector is no different than entering the public sector for women. Mary Phipps entered it, but I'll tell you, few women were allowed to enter the sector. I remember when I first ran for the deputy reeve of Streetsville, I was defeated. Can you imagine a wild woman trying to get into the men's world? A town council all made up of men, and here was a woman that wanted to enter the field. I was defeated. I stayed with her, and the next year I won as deputy reeve of Streetsville. You see, quite honestly, the role of women, and Mary Phipps was the person who really started, as well as Mayor Charlotte Whitten of Ottawa, to prove that really a woman can do the job. It's a philosophy that unfortunately is starting to prove to be right. And that women can do any job a man can do. Any job. And I don't care what it is. In fact, we can do something a man can't do. And you know what I mean. You know, for a woman to be successful in either the private sector or the public sector, you got to realize that you got to be strong. You can't be that weeping type of woman. I've got to tell you. If you are, don't enter politics, because you'll be shedding a lot of tears with the problems, as well as the private sector. And so I can only say to you. Now, when I was mayor of Streetsville, you know, there's a wrong philosophy about the future of Streetsville. For some unknown reason, the politicians and others believed that we wanted to remain Streetsville, the little enclave that we were. No way. We spent, and I can even tell you, $35,000. My gosh, today you spend $35 million. $35,000 to a consultant to say how Streetsville could expand its boundaries, because we knew we could not exist the size that Streetsville was as a viable entity. We were lacking industrial, commercial development, and settlement. And so we spent the $35,000, which is a lot of money for the town of Streetsville, to see, hiring a consultant to see how could we expand the boundaries of Streetsville to make us a viable community. And so we had a boundary study, and it recommended that we expand. In fact, it would have divided Mississauga up into 2 municipalities. Whether you like it or not, that's what the consultants recommended. But anyway, I remember the night that Bill Davis came to the town. He got out with his life. He got out alive. That's all I can tell you. I think you'll remember that. He always teases me anytime he speaks and says, well, you know, if we had you wouldn't be mayor of Mississauga if we had retained Streetsville. Yes, but I would have been mayor of Streetsville. So, you see, I'm very grateful to Kellogg, the company I work for. They gave me the opportunity as a woman to manage a large corporation, a Canadian subsidiary of a large American company. And it was a great privilege. Gave me confidence in myself. I remember my boss, who was a Texan, my first boss. In fact, my 95-year-old boss called me yesterday, my last boss with Kellogg. He's in a nursing home in Macon. He phoned me to congratulate me on my re-election as mayor of Mississauga. And I remember he told me something I learned very quick. When you come into my office to require approval, make sure you do your homework before you come in. Try to predict the questions I'm going to ask you so that you have the answers. And that's been a guiding light to me as mayor of the city, and that is you better do your homework before you go and ask for something or you present a program. And that's been a very wonderful experience for me, and I've never forgotten it. Well, Sam and I settled in Streetsville in 1951. We got married, and we settled in the town of Streetsville. We bought 5 acres, which was a residential unit, by the way, residential size in Streetsville. And we got involved in Streetsville in many ways, in the church, in Trinity Anglican Church, as well as in the Chamber of Commerce in Sefton. And so as a result, we contributed to our community in a major way. So, you know, if you get involved in your community, I can assure you it's so satisfying. I gotta tell you folks, it is satisfaction second to none. To see what you can do to develop the community in which you live. And so we played a part, a major part, in the town of Streetsville. I was chairman of the Streetsville Planning Board. And one of the things that bothered us was the council was not listening to good planning. And that's why I was encouraged with others to run for council, because that's where the decisions are made in council. They wanted to put a high-rise development all over the place. And if you drive down Queen Street, you'll see some of the bad decisions made by the previous council of the town of Streetsville. 2 high-rises right on the main street. I wish we could tear them down and sort of level them out with the rest of that beautiful center of Streetsville. So it's been a wonderful experience. Had I known, I really didn't know what was in store for me, but after the province decided that we should have a city, and they formed the Region of Peel, of which the town of Port Credit, the town of Streetsville, and the town of Mississauga was incorporated into the city of Mississauga. Then I take decisions like that. It's a decision that's been made. Let's make the best of it. Let's not sit there and oppose it anymore, even though we oppose becoming a part of the city of Mississauga. Let's get on with the job. Let's see what we can do to make it a great place for people to live and to work and to bring up their family. And so that is why, in my opinion, the city has been a success. You know, it was not easy to bring together 3 municipalities, but I don't think of amalgamation in the province of Ontario that has gone as smoothly as the city of Mississauga. And I think if you look to the east, I think you'll get the message. You know, we work together, there's no question about it. And the Region of Peel has been a success to date. But I want to tell you, as residents of Mississauga, we want to be separated from the Region of Peel. We want to be a city on our own. We are the 6th largest city in Canada, folks. 6th largest city. And when the mayor of Brampton and I go to the big city mayor's caucus, because all municipalities over 200,000 are members, the mayors are members of the big city mayor's caucus. We are the only 2 mayors across Canada that has a second level of government to which we are participating in. All other mayors are responsible for all the services that they provide to the citizens of their respective city. And the time has come that Mississauga must be responsible for all the services that we should be providing to our people. One-stop shopping in the city of Mississauga. You come to City Hall and you get the answers. You don't have to come to City Hall and then run to the region to get the answers on water, sewer, and waste management. We can do it. We're able to do it. We're considered the best managed city in Canada. We are debt-free. Think about it. What other city of our size is debt-free in this great country of Canada? None. we're the only one. And we are the most crime-free city in Canada. We are the most crime-free city in Canada 4 years in a row. Think about it. Aren't you proud? Pat yourselves on the back, because it's got to be the team approach. It's not just the police, it's the community, it's all our wonderful organizations that make us that great crime-free city. Now, how did we become debt-free? When I ran as mayor, I said, development must pay its way. And therefore, as a result, the developers that want to come and work in Mississauga must pay their way. They must provide us with the necessary capital funding to build the infrastructure to look after the growth. And so as a result, even though the developers know it's a high cost to develop in Mississauga, but you know what? They want to come. They want to be here. And they've developed a beautiful city. We lay down extremely high responsibilities to them. Landscaping second to none. We have the Urban Design Awards that we handed out last night, in which we encourage architects and consulting and landscape architects to do an exceptional job. Because you know what? We have to live with that. We have to live with the development. 2 or 3 weeks ago, I visited the opening, and I'm not going to name it because you'll know where it is, of a building that's going to be built in the city core. And I looked at it and I said, that looks like a box. Why don't you do something to decorate at least the top of it? So they're doing it. I want you to know that next Friday I'll be in Pudong outside of Shanghai. And I want you to know, I wish I could take you all to Pudong outside of Shanghai. In fact, I visited 2 years ago and I met with the Consul General of Canada. He had a dinner for me at his home. And I said, you know, when I get back to Canada, I'm going to get together all the architects. And I'm going to bring them over to Pudong to show them what beautiful buildings they've designed in the city core. And I hope that the Consul General said, Madam Mayor, I got a surprise for you. Most of the architects that have designed the buildings in Pudong are from Canada and the United States. Because the city of Pudong says, you want to build in the city core, on one condition, you get a building permit. Your building is different to any other building in the city core. So we don't have boxes in Pudong like we have in Mississauga and Toronto. We have beautiful buildings. And so you see, we can learn from other countries, folks. Don't think we have all the answers in this great country of Canada. We can learn from others. I had a vision for the city. First of all, I felt that the city needed a major sports facility in our city of our size. And today we're well on our way to building that major sports facility. The Hershey Center was the beginning, and we're now into the second phase to build another major gymnastics center because we've outgrown the one we had, a soccer enclosure and center. And the other objective I had was a major arts facility, because a city without the arts is not a city at all. It just hasn't got a heart. And so we have the Living Arts Center. Yes, it costs money, and I'm proud it does cost money, I can tell you. Because a city of our size, when I look across Ontario and see Kitchener and Cambridge and some of those smaller municipalities of 40 to 50,000 people that have an arts center. And here was the city of Mississauga with 400 to 500,000 people without an arts center. Isn't that awful? Terrible. Because if we want to be a first-class city, we have to have all the amenities. Yes, we concentrated on the community facilities. There's no question about it. And I think that's important. We made sure that there were small theaters in our city, in practically every library. We built the Meadowvale Theater, a small theater, accommodating foreign people. We did it gradually. We did it when we could afford to do it. And then it came, we had to build the Living Arts Center. With the help of the provincial and federal government, we've been able to do that. And now we have the Living Arts Center. I only wish, and I gotta tell you folks, that the citizens of Mississauga would support our two major facilities, the Hershey Center and the Living Arts Center. Stop going to downtown Toronto, and remember we have a downtown that Bruce McLaughlin, that's in the audience tonight, started with Square One. Right, Bruce? Where are you? He started the center, the heart of Mississauga, in a hayfield. Think about it. That's where our city center. But look at it now, and look at what it's going to be in the future. I think of when I was elected mayor in 1978, I sat in an old town hall and watched horses and cows feeding across the field. And look what it is now. And I'll tell you, we have great plans. In fact, when I visit China next week, I'll be talking to investors to build a beautiful hotel in our city core, convention center in our city core. What a great city. And you know, what makes a great city? It's the people. The people that makes a great city. You can build buildings, yes. You can build all these amenities, but it's the people. And I'm so proud of the way in which we've been able to develop. You know, the developers don't like lot levies, I gotta tell you. Any developers in the audience? But the lot levies is giving us the necessary capital funding to build the infrastructure. And so we can proudly say we have up-to-date infrastructure in our city. And that is what is so important. And so we are debt-free. I know Carolyn Parrish is in the audience, and any other politicians from the federal or provincial government, don't tell them that we got $650 million in reserves. See, we believe in planning for the rainy day. The rainy day. I was taught that as a kid. Make sure you have a little money aside for the rainy day. That's the way we plan the city, to put funds aside for the rainy day, because that day will possibly come, and so as a result. So today, many municipalities have proceeded with development charges. I want you to know I brought the town of Streetsville into Mississauga debt-free. Therefore, I wanted the city to be debt-free, even though we weren't debt-free in '78. And because of the cooperation, I want to say, no one person does it alone, please. It's the combination and the team approach of the staff of the city and the councils that I've had the privilege to lead over the years that bought into that philosophy. Run the city like a business and make sure that you only do something when you have the money to do it. Other municipalities go and borrow. You know, it's easy. It's easy to borrow money because you offset the impact on the tax bill. It goes down the road, but the point is you mortgage the future citizens of Mississauga. We do not believe in mortgaging the citizens, the future citizens of Mississauga. And as long as we can get the federal and provincial government to come to the table, which I believe they're coming, I'm telling you, I'm excited about it, with Paul Martin McGinney as the leader in the province of Ontario, they're going to finally come to the table and realize that we can no longer, as municipalities, provide the services that we're called upon to provide on the property tax, that we need to share their many sources of revenue with the municipalities. And I believe a bright day looks down the road for us. So folks, it's, you know, when you think of the City Hall, I remember when the Duke of York came to City Hall, he spoke about his brother, who was an architect, I believe, who said, when he flew over the City Hall, he thought it was the gas works. Well, I'm proud of the gas works. Because it works. Not much gas in it, but it works. Maybe a little hot air. And you know that City Hall has been in every architectural magazine throughout the world, believe it or not. When people ask me what I think of it, I say, it is unique. Then we have our Central Library, right here, sitting right in it. Has the most distribution of library books in Canada. Think about it, our Central Library. We've always had a very vibrant arts community, but the Living Arts Center was the beginning of providing a facility for our young people to excel in the arts, to bring the arts groups along that have played a major role in our city. And I can assure you we're looking forward. The visible arts have outgrown their little place down on Mississauga Road, and we're going to build a beautiful facility for them right next to our chapel estate on the banks of the Credit River. They're going to have a beautiful facility there for them to continue the great work that they're doing. So, and what is so exciting is the building of the garden on the chapel estate. A natural garden, not a butchart, no way, not a handmade. It's going to be natural. And it's well on its way, with the Board of Trade starting to raise the funds to start the first phase of it. We bought the land a few years ago, paid a lot of money for it, and we knew that it was so important that we preserve that land. And it's going to be a jewel in the crown of the city of Mississauga. And then yesterday I met with the Toronto Star that's going to do a special edition in the first part of 2004 in Mississauga. You know what the gentleman said to me? He said, you have hidden treasures here that nobody knows about. Isn't that something? I said, yes. Because you folks only publish Toronto. I know what. If the mayor in Toronto goes to the bathroom, it's on the front page. He said, I can't believe your waterfront. Oh, I said, really? Well, he said, all the talk is about the Toronto waterfront. Yeah, he said, they got a lot of work to do. We're well on our way. We preserve the waterfront for the people of Mississauga. Think of the trail. So folks, to say it all, we are one of the most diverse cities in Canada. We have every nation around the world represented here. And they know they're welcome in our city. I'm so proud that now we have every major world religion with a facility in Mississauga. And the last was the Hindu temple on Derry Road. Beautiful Hindu temple. Because I really feel strongly that every individual needs to have their religious facility so that they can be directed to it and inspired by it and go out into the community. So we are represented. We are a diverse community, no question about it. And people are accepted here from all around the world, and the contribution that they make, to our city, to our province, and of course to our country. And they are welcome here, and they are asked to participate. I was at the Lions Club, Central Lions Club the other evening, and I'll tell you, I was just amazed at the number of nations that are represented as members of the Central Lions Club. So anybody who says that they're not welcome here, folks, leave, because you are welcome. People from all over the world. We've been challenged that our council and our staff do not represent certain parts of the world. I can assure you, and I make my position very clear, we hire qualified people at the city of Mississauga. And I don't care what color they are, and I don't care what country they come from. That is our policy, and I want you to know that. Very important. And as regards to the council, I can't control how the people elect the council, I'm sorry. That's up to the people of Mississauga. So as a result, I can assure you, when I hold my multicultural breakfast, once every year and sometimes twice a year, I can assure you I'm just delighted with the people that come from all parts. At the City Hall, we can speak 28 languages. We have people. If I have anybody come to my office that I can't understand their language, I can phone up to any department and say, please get me a person who can speak the language of that respective country. We have our great festival, the Bread and Honey Festival, just a great festival. The Waterfront Festival, and all the other festivals that we have. And this year, we're going to be entertaining, next year, the marathon here in Mississauga. It's going to be a great event. And I'm so proud to be involved in the World Health in Kobe, Japan. I leave this Sunday for a meeting in Kobe. Do you realize that when working with the Mississauga campus of the University of Toronto, that we're so proud, think of the fact that we have a major university facility in our city, that someday, and it's going to not be too long, it will be called the Mississauga University. Working with the University of Toronto and the World Health in Kobe, Japan, we have come up with the Mississauga model. A model that has been created by the university, the Mississauga campus, putting 44 undergraduate students into our city, looking at every service we provide, and determining and recommending how we can incorporate in everything we do at the city health prevention. Because health prevention is going to save our health plan in Canada, and it's going to save other parts of the world. The Mississauga model has now been published under the direction of Dr. Kawaguchi, the head of the World Health. And it will go to every city around the world as the Mississauga model. I'm so proud of it. It's going to put Mississauga on the map amongst the world's cities, in which what we've been able to do with the university. Because so often, the academia world does not work with the decision makers. We make decisions without the benefit of all the research that has been done by the academics. And today in Mississauga, we're joining the academic research with the decision makers at City Hall so that we can do a better job in making decisions on behalf of our people, Mississauga people, in regards to the environment and regards to health. Well, Mississauga is on the great city. We have a great future. We want to become independent, and we will. I hope that this government, the new government of the province of Ontario, will recognize that we are a city that requires independence, so that we can do the many things that we have to do. And heritage is so important of our future. We've tried hard. The Heritage Act of the province of Ontario has no teeth in it. No teeth in it. We have to cajole people into preserving the heritage. That is unacceptable. And I hope, Madam Chairman, that with this new government, that we can convince them to put some teeth into the Heritage Act of the province, so that we can preserve that. And I say to you, the citizens, speak up, stand up and be counted on. And tell your MPP that we need that teeth in the Heritage Act. So you don't run around causing a lot of ill feelings, a lot of unnecessary work, and then at the end, they can apply for a demolition permit, right? Isn't that awful? We go through the process, we put the owner of the property through the process, we spend the money on your behalf, and then at the end, we have to issue a demolition permit, other than those that take a bulldozer to bulldoze down. We have tree preservation in our city. And, you know, somebody asked me during the election, when are you going to ban pesticides from private property? Ladies and gentlemen, does government have to tell you to eliminate pesticides from your private property? Why is it? Aren't you concerned about the environment? I don't use pesticides on my property. And do we have to legislate it? And if we legislate it, it means we have to enforce it. That's a high cost. Because every complaint we get that somebody next door is using pesticides, we have to go and investigate. You know, it's time that the people took control of their municipality and their community and did the things that have to be done, like we've done with crime. I believe that people of Mississauga have tried their very best to take control. In regard to litter, they got to take control. In regard to pesticides, the people have to take control. Why is it that we need to legislate what's good for the people? Why is it? I don't know. It should be voluntary on the part of the people, instead of asking us to pass a bylaw, and then we have to enforce it. And we don't have the staff to enforce the bylaws. Folks, we have a great community. We have a great future. And I have to say to you that let's not just think of our own community. I gotta tell you, having been to Tanzania just 6 weeks ago, we can't sit in our comfortable pew in this great country of Canada and not be concerned about the rest of the world. When you think that 7 million people in Africa die a year from AIDS, when we think of the people that are suffering and starving to death, the kids across the world, even though we're very comfortable here, we gotta be participating. We have to participate in trying to eliminate poverty throughout the world. We are so lucky. This city is just a wonderful city where I know people just enjoy living here. But folks, we have to think about other parts of the world. Because quite honestly, with my involvement with the World Health, I'm quite convinced that if we want world peace, we've got to do something about the conditions of people in other parts of the world. Otherwise, we will never have world peace. Mississauga is leading the way in so many ways. We were the first to designate the first heritage village in the province of Ontario, Meadowvale, that we've tried to preserve. We own 24 various heritage-related properties, and it costs money, folks, to maintain those properties. But you know, the money. The Street House property we own is the Timothy Street House, which dates back to 1825. We have the Bradley Museum. We have the Benares. You know, we could have people coming from all over the world to see that if we can go. We now have a tourist department in our city. Heritage is important to the city of Mississauga as it is to all communities, important to the province, important to this great country of Canada. And so tonight I ask you to support the efforts of our Heritage Foundation and our Heritage Committee. Volunteers who work so faithfully on behalf of all of us to protect us. No matter how we build to be a great city, I can only say to you, if we don't preserve our heritage, then we've lost something so valuable, it just can't be replaced. No matter what beautiful buildings we build, etc. Heritage is so important. So tonight I want to say to you, I'm honored to be asked to be the first speaker in this great program that the committee has undertaken. Folks, if we all work as a team, if we become involved, if we get the vision of what this city can be, preserving its heritage, building a great city, providing the services for all our people from the cradle to the grave, and I'll tell you, we can all be very proud. Because you know what? We only pass this way once. Next time I come back, I'm coming back as a lawyer. way once. And we either make a mark on our community and make our contribution, no matter how small, really, doesn't matter. And whether it's noted or not, but in your own mind that you've made a contribution. Or else you pass on, and even your neighbors or your relatives don't even know you exist. Quite honestly. Folks, let's all make a mark on our community by working together for the good, yes, our community, for the good of one another. Because I believe that Mississauga is a caring community. I really believe it. I sense it as I go around the city. And with us all caring about our community, about one another, I'll tell you, we'll not only be the most crime-free city in Canada, we'll not only be the best managed city in Canada, we'll not only be the most debt-free city in Canada, we will be the city that everybody will look at and say, my, could we only attain that accomplishment. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Gaspar, and I'm the Executive Director of the Mississauga Heritage Foundation. And I have the honor of thanking our speaker this evening, Mayor McCallion, on behalf of the MHF and the guests here this evening. I would like to thank you for sharing your experiences, your insight with us tonight. You are an inspiration to us all. It's our intention every several years, to compile the Mary Phipps lectures into a publication. Your address will make for very interesting reading. Each year, we present the speaker a lasting token of our appreciation, a very special legacy gift. Would the following people join us on stage to assist with the presentation to Mayor McCallion? Our President, Marion Gibson, past President of the Zonte Club, Mrs. Mary Main, student representatives, Ann Osborne, Christian Verlizzi, and Curtis Melo from Mary Phipps Catholic School. As our President has mentioned, the Mississauga Heritage Foundation is committed to civic stewardship and renewal. Even this token of appreciation to our speaker will reflect that. We wanted to complement our neighborhood regeneration efforts and our Heritage Trails project. Therefore, on behalf of the Mississauga Heritage Foundation and the Zonte Club of Mississauga, we present the Mayor with a commemorative bench. It will be installed permanently in the Iroquois Flats Park beside Mary Phipps Catholic School for residents of the community to enjoy. The plaque that will be installed with the bench reads, donated by the Mississauga Heritage Foundation and the Zonte Club of Mississauga to recognize Mayor Hazel McCallion for delivering the 2003 Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture. Mrs. Mary Main, past President of the Zonte Club of Mississauga, to make an additional presentation to Mayor McCallion.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Your Worship, Mayor McCallion, Madam President, members of the Mississauga Heritage Foundation, and honored guests. This is a very auspicious occasion. With the commencement of this annual Memorial Lecture Series, we honor the vision and dedication to our community of one of Mississauga's most outstanding women, Mary Phipps. In choosing Her Worship, Mayor McCallion, to give the inaugural lecture, we amplify that honor further, as Mayor McCallion is, without a doubt, the living, breathing example of vision and dedication to community. It is also most fitting that the Zonte Club of Mississauga sponsored this inaugural lecture, where you see both Mary Phipps and Hazel McCallion were members of this chapter of Zonte International, and the Mississauga Zontians are thrilled to be able to celebrate the lives of service and dedication both these women represent. Zonta International is a worldwide organization of women in business and the professions working together since 1919 to advance the status of women internationally and locally. We strive to further this mission through service at the global and local level. Now, our bylaws provide that honorary membership in Zonta International shall only be granted to persons who have distinguished themselves by some unusual service other than their service in Zonta. It was the unanimous decision of the Mississauga Club that our mayor, Hazel McCallion, is most definitely a person who has distinguished herself by her outstanding leadership of the city of Mississauga for the past 25 years. And it is with great pleasure that we sponsor her as an honorary member of Zonta International for life to mark her 25th anniversary as mayor of our fair city. The Zonta symbol of friendship as a gift from the Sister Zontians. We give you the Zonta emblem to be worn as a symbol of the mission of Zonta International. And we give you our affection and gratitude for all that you have done and will continue to do in service to our community. Thank you, Mayor McCallion.
Now you know why she got re-elected again. Behind everything, there is nearly always a story. In her will, Mary Phipps left her home and the property around it to the municipality. It's now one of Mississauga's many park areas, and I mean many, and I use a lot of them myself. If you've not seen the many other parks other than the one near your home, just take a drive around this wonderful city. The park is on the city's heritage inventory, and the park and the house have been threatened by some of the proposals for the new expanded QEW Cloverleaf interchange. We understand that the proposal is now being favoured by the province, would retain the Mary Phipps house, but claim a slice of the park. Well, that's part of the way there, isn't it? We in Mississauga have lost so many of our heritage sites and buildings. Whenever we lose them, we lose part of our city's soul and part of our civic memory. Let us all here this evening resolve to work harder to preserve the places that are part of our city's inheritance. I hope everyone has enjoyed this evening, and thank you again, Mayor McCallion, for your thought-provoking, truly milestone lecture. Also, I would like to recognise some very important people who have helped us orchestrate this evening. The Mississauga Heritage Foundation thanks the following people for their help to make this first Mary Phipps Memorial Lecture a success. To the staff of the Canadiana Room of Mississauga Central Library for their assistance to us as we prepared for this evening. To Mr. Scott Gillis for piping in our guest speaker. City of Mississauga staff for their technical assistance. To our principal sponsor, the Zonta Club of Mississauga. And to our donors, DEPCO International and Emmy Nielsen. Thank you too. To our friends at Rogers Cable TV for their support this evening, and for agreeing to broadcast the Mayor's speech in its entirety. To musicians Laura Chambers and Emma Elkensey. Laura is a native of Mississauga and has been pursuing flute studies since the age of 5. Emma was born in Dublin, in Ireland, and began her studies in Europe before deciding to come to Canada to study, like Laura, with internationally renowned flautist Patrick Gallois at the University of Toronto. Last but not least, I'd like to say a special thank you to the team I have the great privilege of working with, to Executive Director Jamie Gaspar and staff, to MHF Vice President Tom Abaniak and Director Mira Modi, to MHF member John Hamill for videotaping this evening for our records, and to the many volunteers who have helped make it all possible. Thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed this evening. We appreciate you sharing it with us. We welcome your continued participation in the activities of the Foundation. Please consider filling out the membership form which is inserted in the programme. It can be left with our volunteers and staff at the welcome desk that you passed on your way into the lecture hall. In promoting the work of what was then the Toronto Township Historical Foundation, Mary Phipps wrote that a community must be conscious of itself. It must cherish the places and people that make it unique, that have made it worthy of being called home. Those values are just as crucial today for the city of Mississauga. And now, everyone, please join us for refreshments in the atrium. Thank you and good night.